There's Lavender.
Nice.
She always likes to kick it off for us. Um,
Perfect.
good evening, everyone. My name is Cassidy Smith-Toliver, and I'm a community organizer at the Neighborhood Alliance of Central Oklahoma.
And I'm Maya Fitch. I'm also a community organizer at the Neighborhood Alliance of Central Oklahoma. As y'all can see, my cat is with me, so she may kind of make appearance here or there tonight.
So, the Neighborhood Alliance of Central Oklahoma has been around for almost 50 years, and our goal is to build safe, healthy, and attractive neighborhoods for all. We work with over 600 neighborhoods a year in the metro, primarily in Oklahoma City. And as things progress in the city, part of becoming safe, healthy, and attractive for all has really started to become looking at the climate impacts um, around our city because neighborhoods that have never flooded before are starting to have drainage issues.
Mhm.
Neighborhoods that normally have never had power outages are having power outages. We are so excited that our final workshop of our fiscal year before July 1st is with our friends over at the Office of Sustainability for the city of Oklahoma City.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you guys here tonight. Thank everyone so much for coming, and this is a really important topic we're excited to talk about. So tonight we have Tio Bowman from the Office of Sustainability well as Sarah Terry-Cobo. So I'll just go ahead and turn it over to them. They'll be our presenters tonight.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the introduction and for having us. I'm going to go ahead and attempt to share my screen. I'm Tio Bowman, Program Planner for the Sustainability Office at the City of Oklahoma City. I've been here since 2011, so going on 14 years with the city, and excited to talk to you all tonight about the update, some progress that we've made on adaptokc, and then how we're going to recalibrate that plan going forward. So I'll let Sarah introduce as I start to share my slides.
Yeah, thanks, Tio. My name is Sarah Terry-Cobo. I've been with the city since January of 23, so not quite as long as Tio. But I have lived and worked in the OKC Metro since 2012. I moved back to Oklahoma. So happy to be here. It's great to work for the city, and I'm really excited to be able to help Tio with this presentation this evening. So thanks everybody for joining us.
That's right. And you are here on the ground floor because this is our first meeting about the sustainability plan update. So we're kicking off a process that will probably go throughout the rest of this year that we'll be looking at talking with stakeholders. We'll find lots of ways to engage with folks, meeting, go to current events that are going to be happening, but we'll also be hosting webinars like this and recording those. So I very much appreciate those that are able to be here live to listen to this and provide feedback via some polls. So we'll have some polls at some checkpoints throughout the presentation. But first, we're going to get started by telling you what all we're going to cover. So we'll talk about how adaptokc works. We just have one slide on that to give an overview and then go into why we kind of have these. We have just a few slides to kind of talk about why it's important for municipalities to plan for things like air quality, water quality, energy efficiency, and thinking about the effects of climate change on operations, on residents' finances, and also how that can affect some of those other things that we talk about: air quality, water quality, and just a healthy city that we have. So adaptokc implementation overview. So we'll go through some highlights of some key policies. We've spent our time since 2020 as wisely as possible. Of course, our plan was adopted right smack in the middle of the start of a pandemic. So that means we had some key challenges to face. So we'll talk about those challenges and some others. But we were able to accomplish quite a bit since 2020, and we're looking forward to, like I said, recalibrate this plan and recalibrate some of our indicators so that it makes sense for the city and everything is looking forward. Then we'll go through each chapter. We'll talk about the goals and initiatives, kind of have some SWOT analysis, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats around each chapter, what you all think of our goals and our initiatives. Again, this is the very first start of where we're going to be thinking about shaping the plan, and that starts with the highest level. So that's the desired end state we want for those goals. And so if those are on track, then we have a lot to work with underneath those. But we want to start at the highest level of that pyramid. And then at the end, there'll be a survey where you can get involved in the update process that, like I said, will run through the rest of this year. We'll start working on the plan draft next year and running that through the approval process. So diving right in, here's how adaptokc works. So it is a plan that was, this is on the left part of the slide, you can see a cycle, right? So we are continuously improving, and that's part of why we chose to call this plan adaptokc, is because it's more than just sustaining things like sustainability kind of implies. That you want resources to be available for future generations so that they can have the same opportunities as we had at the time. However, we want to do more than that. We want to allow future residents to be able to thrive, excuse me, in a future that is equipped with better resources and more resilient infrastructure. So looking at the top of the chart, we're going through progress reviews right now. And so we'll have progress reports that will be published, one progress report and an indicators report. So those will be the two reports that come out. We're hoping by the end of this month of June. Ideally, they'll be done by July and out to you all. There'll be some accompanying surveys with those. So you'll have a chance beyond just an hour and a half or an hour here with us tonight, but you'll be able to really kind of digest what all has been accomplished and what those indicators are pointing to, what data is not available anymore. That's been some challenges we've run into, the way things are tracked. And so we want some consistent indicators to move forward. So we'll be taking a lot of stakeholder input until the end of the year, and then start developing that draft. And like I said, leadership review and then public comment. So once we get through back to that public comment stage, we'll have some real drafts and some real things that you can read and respond to, just to make sure we're including everyone and everything that we want to in those plans. If you focus on the right side of the slide, I guess my right, depending on where you're sitting, this is kind of a lot of a collection of what the Sustainability Office does. So we take a lot of input from a lot of different places. And again, I meant to say this at the top, but not only do you have Tio and Sarah from the Sustainability Office, but you have the entirety of the Sustainability Office here with you today. So we are two full-time employees that work for the city and are excited to lead this charge on a lot of different planning efforts. But adaptokc has input from a variety of places: city departments, private sector, nonprofits, you all, neighborhoods. And then also regional, state, federal agencies that we work with and partner with and sometimes receive external funding from. So that's how we've been able to accomplish a lot of what's in this plan. And so you'll be able to see that going forward. But something we want to look at is more sustainable funding sources for some of the initiatives. I know there's a lot of demand for things, and whether that means that doesn't necessarily mean, I should say, that the Sustainability Office needs more funding. It's just that the key things that folks want to accomplish, that we're using the funding sources available to the city, like geo bonds, like MAPS programs, penny sales tax initiatives, these types of funding mechanisms to be able to accomplish the things that residents want to see in their city. So our office, we do a lot of things. There's a long list there, but a lot of it is coordination, is facilitation. We're bringing partners together, and we're talking about some really challenging issues. These are things that a lot of cities grapple with, and that not anybody has fully figured out. But we do know that there are ways that we can mitigate the effects, so ways that we can prevent some of the challenges and the hazards that are to come with, particularly as it relates to climate impacts, but then also how we can adapt to the things that are already happening. We know we're already experiencing extreme heat, and we're breaking records with extreme heat. We know, as Cassidy mentioned in the intro, that some places of the city are flooding that aren't necessarily in a flood zone. And we're having these rain events that can be inundation events where we have these giant flash floods that happen in a matter of hours. But then also, as we've experienced over the past few weeks, we have several days on end of heavy rains in little batches. And so that is taxing also on our stormwater infrastructure and our natural systems as well. So we want residents to be able to be equipped with the knowledge and resources they need to be able to prepare for the future and prepare for the now. So quickly running through kind of the pillars of sustainability through the triple bottom line lens here, but ultimately why plan for sustainability? It's because it has benefits, economic benefits, environmental benefits, and social benefits. So there are arguments that can be made for pretty much any initiative about that tick all of these boxes. We're mitigating risk. We're preventing spending future money on repairing things that are broken. We're building things to last. We're encouraging biodiversity. We want clean air and water, soil for our community. Cleanups take a lot of money. We have a very successful brownfields program, which is a good thing to say in the way that we manage it, but it's also acknowledging that we have a lot of things to clean up. And that's left from vestiges of private development and lack of oversight and those types of things. So when we have soil that is hazardous, it prevents development, which prevents economic development, and also at the same time is harming our ecology. So all of these things are interconnected, and I think that's the main takeaway from this slide. But diving in a little bit deeper, preparedness pays off, and this is a key takeaway from a report from the climate resiliency report from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Allstate Insurance, and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. And this study revealed that every $1 spent on climate resilience and preparedness saves communities up to $13 in damages, in cleanup costs and economic impact. And that includes things like people missing work, people not being able to go to work because they're cleaning up their house, they're picking up pieces of their properties that were damaged from a climate event. So it's important to remember that there are economic drivers for this, whether or not that hits a bottom line of an individual project. There's also a huge value in our natural systems, and I think it would take just spending a little bit of time in a place that doesn't have these. Oklahoma City is very fortunate to have the tree canopy cover we do now. It can be improved, and it has taken some hits over time. 2019 it had a pretty damaging ice storm. Very recently, we've had some straight line wind storms. So even if it's not a full-blown tornado, people are losing shingles. Those types of storms that cause people to lose shingles, that causes damage to property, are also causing damage to our tree canopies and our natural systems that are, again, doing a number of things that are beneficial for our community, which is, stormwater benefits, erosion control, air quality. It's cleaning the air at the same time. So we're avoiding runoff, and that's kind of the calculation over here from a 2019 study. So I believe there are plans in the works to try to update this study with a number of partners involved in that. And so hopefully that can happen very soon, so we can get a better, clear picture on kind of where we stand today in planning for the future. And then also important to mention health and equity. So this images are coming, they're sourced from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, but they come from 2022 Oklahoma County Community Health Needs Assessment. So this was developed under the direction of nonprofits hospital systems. And so it pulls back to the social determinants of health, and the Central Oklahoma Health Impact Team, made up of the hospitals there in the center, identify things that are what are impacting health? What are the biggest drivers or things that are preventing folks from being able to receive the health care they need, or to prevent certain types of illnesses or ongoing chronic illnesses? And a lot of that is where you are, the environment around you. A piece of it is lifestyle, but then there's also socioeconomic factors. And so that ties into historically disadvantaged parts of the city, areas where, there's been, way back in the day when folks were forced to live in certain areas, they could only own property because of the way they looked or because of who they were. They were only able to own property in certain parts of the city. And a lot of times that was near industrial pollution. And so we have this legacy that's important to acknowledge, and it's important to acknowledge that there are solutions that are needed. And so some folks feel anything that is kind of like a rate increase, anything that affects everyone affects some people more than others. And so that's an important angle to think about when you're thinking about sustainability, but also those climate impacts. They're going to affect everyone, but it's a little different if you're a renter who can't control your weatherization of your home, and you still have to pay the electric bill for it, but you're going to still face the 28 days of 100-degree weather that everyone else will be. So it may just impact you a little bit more. And then you add on top of that, folks may not be able to afford a car for themselves. So they're relying on our public transportation system and spending a lot more time outside. So there's a lot more exposure to those things. So there's a direct correlation there between one's income and the likelihood of disease and premature death. So important things to remember. Harkening back to AdaptokC itself, we identified some challenges back in 2020 and in the lead up to the adoption of the plan that are still, I think, pretty relevant today. And that there's going to be more to be said about these in the update of ADAPT, but there's more information to receive from stakeholders about each one of these. So keeping these in mind, these are kind of good summaries of challenges that have a lot of challenges underneath them as well. So urban flooding isn't just about the water, right? It's damage to infrastructure, and the same with extreme heat. That's damaging our roads. We're driving heavy vehicles on the roads all the time. That's something to be aware of. We constantly at the top of the list for our citizen survey that's circulated every year is extreme heat and excuse me, I wish it was extreme heat. No, it's a roads. People want their roads repaired. They want smoother drives. What's challenging in keeping up with that beyond extreme heat is that we're an enormous city. If you've ever seen the mayor talk, you've probably seen this slide. But we're very big, and it's important to acknowledge that context that we are 622 square miles, and so we're bigger than New York, we're bigger than Los Angeles, but we have about 1,000 people per square mile or so. Our population is increasing, so we're spread out quite a bit.
Hold on a second. Go ahead,
I
Cassidy.
was going to say, I think we're bigger than 622 square feet now.
Yeah, we're 622 square miles, but yes, I think we're slightly we're adding some and we're moving some over time, and sometimes that happens with annexations and de-annexation requests. So those come into the city, and Planning Commission considers those, and council ultimately approves them. In some cases, again, consistency with the comprehensive plan is a key factor there. But again, we are an enormous footprint, I think, is the takeaway here. And with that comes with a lot of infrastructure. So we've got not just roads, but roads are the main thing on top of people's minds. And think about this infrastructure and the way that the wear and tear on that can be exacerbated, and how much more money that might cost us, going forward with the climate change impacts that are coming. And so some of those surfaces, like our roads, our sidewalks, our buildings, all of these things that are necessary for people to live. We have a lot of rooftops, but the roads are important. They make commerce happen. They make recreation happen. They connect people, and the city has invested a tremendous amount of money. And by the city, I mean residents. Residents have voted to approve maps and Better Streets, Safer City initiatives, geo-bond initiatives, to install safer bike lanes, to install new sidewalks that we didn't build for 50 years. So we're creating a city that is more accessible for people, but also with this added infrastructure and with the existing infrastructure, we have a phenomenon like the urban heat island effect. So this is where unshaded areas, mostly hard surfaces like concrete or asphalt, they absorb heat throughout the day and slowly radiate those throughout the night. So it raises not just daytime temperatures in urban areas, but also nighttime temperatures. And that can have an effect on electricity demands, on people's health, particularly the unhoused populations that we have in Oklahoma City. So there are a lot of considerations for the current amount of heat that we have. And we've done one project that's important to point out, but this does exist in our city. Sarah's going to go into detail about this when we talk about policy actions in the natural and built environment chapter. But we noticed beyond the EPA's estimate of 7 degrees difference from an urban area experiencing the urban heat island to a grassy area, we saw a difference in the morning temperatures of 14.7 degrees. That's a massive differential. So this study, again, Sarah's going to go into detail, so I won't completely show all of our cards, but it involved quite a few volunteers to collect all of this data, and it revealed, that there are spots that are much hotter than others, and that this urban environment does have an impact on the way that folks experience heat. So talking about that heat, we know what we have now, we know what we've had historically, and anyone from Oklahoma, which can be a dangerous thing, is used to it, right? We know it's hot. It's always hot in the summer. And you can look on the left side over here, data from the Southern Climate Impacts Planning Program, historical yearly average temperatures from 1970 to 2023. We're looking at an average change per decade in about 0.4 degrees. So that's 50 years. About every about every 10 years, we're increasing by about 0.4 degrees. And so our average annual temperatures are increasing, but at a fairly, slow clip. Then you look at projections that are provided by the South Central Climate Adaptation Sciences Center. And we're looking at mid-century. So they frame mid-century as 2036 to 2065. This could be anywhere within there, but they also identify low scenarios and high scenarios. And that means low emission scenarios. Greenhouse gas emissions are ultimately what are the drivers of a lot of climate change, and it's caused by the trapping of heat. Greenhouse gases are what make the Earth livable, right? And the most prevalent greenhouse gas there is water vapor. So we have a ton of it, and that is important because it makes the Earth livable. We're trapping some heat, so we're not an ice ball. However, whenever we've added fossil fuels to those, we've added a tremendous amount of fossil fuels to those through vehicles, through power generation sources, machinery for our industries. All of these sources are adding, and others are adding to this mix that traps more heat. And so that's what causes some of these this climate weirding, these weird times that we have storm events, or we have ice storms, let's say in October, when we have a bunch of vegetation on this trees. And in fact, that happened, so that was the ice storm, I believe in 2020, when we had 3 days that generated about half of what's normally collected from the curbside across the whole city over the course of 3 days. So I think it was about over 100,000 tons that were collected, and normally we're about 250,000 tons. So it was a tremendous amount of waste that was generated because it happened at a weird time. We had a lot of vegetation on the trees. It brought a lot more damage down, but also it contributes to a lot more extreme heat during those hotter months. So that again is tied directly to electricity demand and public health. So you look at those mid-century projections, 2036, that's not that far away, about 10 and a half years from now, when we could expect on the low emission scenario. So if we're doing everything we can to reduce emissions between now and then, we may be able to stave that off a little while. But I think it's a little bit of a tall order given the information that we have now. So we're looking probably something closer to this higher end scenario, which is 5.2 degrees on our average annual temperature. And I've got a chart to show. This is very elementary, I know, but it's important to think about our when you shift an average, you're not shifting just that number. It's not a difference of 88 degrees versus 85 degrees. We're talking about the whole bell curve moving. So we've got more hot weather, more extremely hot weather, and more records. But we do still have some of those cold snaps. So we do still have some of the winter weather. So it doesn't mean that never happens. It just means we're going to have a lot more of this extremely hot weather. And why is heat important? Why is heat planning important to think about from emergency response standpoint, from a public health standpoint? It's because heat kills more people every year than all the other natural disasters, usually all of them all combined, depending on what other disasters happen that year. So we're looking into ways to protect people, ways that shade can be in places where we haven't historically had shade. And so there's big investments happening with MAPS on bus shelters, and that we've been installing a tremendous amount of those to add shade to folks that are relying on the public transit system. So again, an important thing to remember that this is about people. I mean, all of these recommendations, all of these policies, it may sound like it's about buildings, but ultimately we're talking about people. Why is electricity demand important? Because people have to pay for it. And that's again driving back to the reason of why any of this is on the radar for the city. Is it costs a lot of money, but ultimately that money comes out of residents' pockets. Looking towards our mid-century from 2020 to 2050, and then looking even beyond that on electricity demands, both on the higher end scenarios. A large percentage change is projected for electricity demand. So we're gonna have a lot more strain on our grid, and we're gonna have demand for new generation sources as well. So that's something to pay attention to and think about as you consider investments in weatherization for your home. And other sources like that. We've historically had a great historically we've had very low prices of electricity, and that's important to keep in mind that it's taking some very strategic management to make this happen. However, whenever we have things that are very low priced, people will tend to use a lot of it. And so you can see from this chart that electricity use per capita in Oklahoma City versus the national average. Oklahoma City is the bars, the blue bars, and the line across those bars is the national average. So per person, we're using a lot more electricity than the national average. So those trends should be something we focus on and try to change by the time all this additional heat gets here and all the additional electricity demand arrives, which is kind of well on its way right now. We're also noticing that prices in Oklahoma are increasing. They're increasing across the country. Again, as demand increases for something and supply is lacking, or approvals of new supply, interconnection and all the regulatory processes that have to go through for new generation sources, those can help drive up prices. And so we're looking at, since 1997, estimating around 2.53% annually. That could be set to change again. If we have more demand for things, we may be needing to fire up old power plants or look at new generation sources like solar and wind to be able to cover some of those other areas. But the wind and solar also face the challenge of transmission and interconnection. So there's none of these come with an easy pathway, but there are solutions that are able to be there.
I'm going to jump in really quickly here.
Yeah.
I always like I always like to remind people that this is the cost per kilowatt hour. And Energy and Information Administration is basing that right on the kilowatt hour price. However, these prices do not include some larger and more substantial charges that you might find on your utility bills, such as the Winter Storm Uri securitization costs. If you are a utility customer then, or even now, if you're a new utility customer in the metro, you are going to see that Winter Storm Uri cost, and it's going to be on your bill for solid 20 years at least, unless something dramatically changes with that case, but we don't see anything like that. And in all of the research that we have read that's done by national laboratories, wonks, other sources, there's no situation in which electricity gets cheaper at the current rate. So did I characterize that accurately?
Yeah, no, that's
Go ahead.
that's a good addition. Important to remember that there are fixed costs, and then there are costs associated with fuels, and so that's where we'll see those increases. So another impact we expect to have here in Oklahoma City, in addition to the added extreme heat, is precipitation. We kind of talked about this at the top, but whenever this is a metaphor we like to use here because it gives promotion for our MAPS 3 whitewater course, but it is a really good metaphor for what development does to extreme flooding and heavy rains. So you put these blue blocks in place. This is what makes the whitewater course the whitewater course. It creates more velocity and a lot more dangerous situation. And in fact, it's so accurate at doing that. Our public safety folks use it for swiftwater rescue training, and so that's a good analogy to think about. But when you look at the projections, it's estimating that we'll have about the same amount of rainfall on an average basis annually. So no big deal, right? But we have we kind of tipped our hand at the beginning of the call with we have this warmer atmosphere with more, it can hold more moisture for longer periods of time, and so those inundation events, those heavy rainfalls. 2024 was a primo example of what we can expect. Very long, hot, dry summer. We had a decently wet spring, but it wasn't oversaturated. And then we got to November and we broke records for rainfall. And so we'll see these where that rainfall in November doesn't really help crops throughout the summer. It doesn't really help gardens throughout the summer to stay alive, or lawns, that vegetation that we need to help combat the urban heat island effect. So when we have rainfall is going to be really important, and being able to capture rainwater harvesting is another thing to plug another city program where the Stormwater Quality Division of Public Works does discounts for rain barrels. And again, you may not think one rain barrel is a big deal, but if we distribute 5,000 rain barrels, 50 gallons each, like these things start to add up, and you can see the economies of scale. So doing your part always counts, and every degree of warming we can prevent does make a difference when it comes to what seems like an insurmountable challenge with greenhouse gases. Stormwater runoff. So this is another thing that we face. whether it's heavy rains, that's taking pollution from parking lots and our lawns and places like that into our storm drains. It's important to remember that those storm drains go straight to our natural waters. They go straight to lakes and streams, creeks, and they don't have any pre-filtration, no pre-treatment. And so if we are continuing to over fertilize lawns, over irrigate lawns, we're using water that is a precious resource. And the city has a water conservation plan that the utilities department manages and specifies the mandatory odd even watering. These things are in place. One, so we don't run our reservoirs dry, not just in Oklahoma City, but the ones we draw from in the far reaches of the state. But also it helps with stormwater quality when you're not over irrigating, because if you're not running that sedimentation, you're not running those nutrients into our natural waters. Again, if it's during a time of drought, when you're trying to keep that lawn alive, those waters are going straight into our lakes, and it can cause things like blue-green algae blooms, where that can disrupt wildlife that's toxic to humans. It can disrupt recreation. So again, a economic impact that can be felt just from water quality. And it of course zaps oxygen. It makes it difficult or impossible for fish and wildlife to live there. So another challenge that we face. But pollution is not just about fertilizers or chemicals. Well, I say chemicals in their chemical state, in a liquid state. By far, the leading material found in local Oklahoma waterways, whether it's through OKC Beautiful's litter blitzes or through waterway cleanups that Stormwater Quality manages, it's single-use plastics. So prevention starts with preventing how many times you buy single-use plastics. This isn't one person's problem to solve, but it is something that we cannot not acknowledge. We need to acknowledge.
We must
I'll say it that
acknowledge.
way. We must acknowledge, because again, you go out with any of these groups to pick up trash from any of the waterways, and you will find exactly what these pictures are showing, and that results in huge bags of it that ultimately, some of it can be recycled, but styrofoam, these polystyrene, these types of things are real scourges for our natural waterways.
I just think about what Zachary Taylor neighborhood found in the Deep Fork.
What was that?
Oh my God. There were at
Why don't
least,
you tell the whole class?
I was going to say, yeah, sorry. There were at least 20, 30 shopping carts, 5 or 6
Yep.
mattresses. I mean, they took literal tons
Yep.
of trash and tires out of the Deep Fork.
And as a lot of those mattresses and shopping carts and others have plastics that's attached to them, or their fibers are made of some kind of plastic materials that break down over time, right? And that's where we get all of the things you read in the news about PFAS, the microplastics that are in our blood. They get in our bloodstreams through various ways, but it's because it starts. By and large, it starts with it ending up in our environment and breaking down over time. And so you can see here, this is Derek Johnson, our stormwater superintendent, that's been with the city for some time now, but has worked tirelessly at figuring out ways that we can keep trash out of the rivers, and it's particularly out of the Oklahoma River, the stretch of North Canadian River that comes through downtown, and in ways that we can do that. But ultimately, this is going to come down to prevention, which is a challenging order, because Senate Bill 1001 from, I can't remember the year, not too long ago, preempted municipalities from regulating things like plastic bags or single-use styrofoam containers or styrofoam cups. So we can't regulate through ordinances and laws and say, you can charge a tax, you can whatever to encourage. We can't even really encourage people through a tax to use paper bags or to use fewer of the single-use plastics that are in place here. So that's a real challenge in the state that cities face. So again, it will take all of us to come together and think of some strategies that we can implement, and maybe use the city's purchasing power to demonstrate how we can prevent buying so many single-use plastics. So again, this is AdaptokC cover. I think I covered why we called it AdaptokC at the beginning. But again, we're seeking to have a dynamic process of constant refinement, and that's what AdaptokC is, and that's what it represents for residents and city departments. Our chapters include energy productivity, natural and built environment, air quality, and waste reduction. And so we'll walk through each one of these. A quick snapshot before we get to our very first poll of how much implementation has been completed as of now. So you can see how many policies are in each chapter, and then how many policies that we've started by the start date. We've initiated some action that's more than just a meeting. You know, we've actually done something related to this policy that are listed here. So you can also see on the right-hand side of the chart that it's a pretty good breakdown of pretty good distribution amongst the chapters. So we've moved the needle in a lot of different places. And I say we, I should reiterate this from the beginning, but like, I'm not just talking about the sustainability office. Sarah and I are not responsible for all of these things. These are things that partners have completed, that city departments have weighed in on. Others have funded. They put money, up to help us accomplish some of these things. So again, there's a huge amount of kudos to go around. And again, it's a work in progress, but again, it's a constant process that we're continuously trying to refine. So brings us to our very first poll, and we want to know more about you. So we have 3 questions for the first poll before we get into the energy chapter. And we want to know, why are you here today? What has the city done well regarding sustainability? And trust me, if there are negative things you'd like to say, we'll get to that. You'll have plenty of opportunity to let us know what the city hasn't done well. But we would like to know what we have done well relating to sustainability. And that could be AdaptokC related, or it can be something that you know of and have experienced yourself. And then ultimately, we're asking for 3. If you can pick 3, what are the most important sustainability priorities? And so I think you've got a little leeway in how many you select, but we'll give you about 5 minutes or so, a few minutes to.
Perfect. We've got 1 so far.
Excellent.
And yeah, there was not. So I guess in theory, you could select all of them, but they would prefer 3.
Right. We're trying to kick off this. There's a lot to do, right? And there's a lot of big challenges. We've talked about some of those, but we've got a finite amount of resources and a finite amount of people to be able to do this. And so we have to be able to prioritize. And that's kind of what these workshops are about.
And if you can't see the poll, let us know. I feel like we should have some background music for this.
I was just thinking that. I have to stop my share unless I can share 2 different screens at once. I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, it doesn't like when you try that.
Yeah, it's okay. If I were able to share a we could do so. We'll work on that. Next workshop we'll have some interlude music. Or Maya could probably just sing for us.
Oh, you want me to sing for you?
Don't make me sing.
Take what we can get.
Oh, she's gone now.
No, I accidentally switched over to driving mode.
Oh, nice. And there are some city employees that have some hidden talents that were revealed through some Heart of the City campaign last year. So that's a fundraising campaign that city employees participate in. And one of the things was a talent show. And there's some talent out there. Musicians, some folks have some pipes. And so they took over city hall chambers or council chambers one day.
All right, oh, it looks like we've got 2 minutes left on this survey question set.
Okay. And this is, again, just a snapshot. You'll have plenty of opportunity to reach out to us
Yeah, there's
Sarah,
4 more polls.
there's 4 more polls also.
Yes.
We're gonna deep dive each chapter. So we just kind of want to get a feel for why everyone's here, and your perspective of priorities, and if you think we've done anything okay so far before we give you all the answers of the things we've done well.
I even went ahead and made sure that they got more than just 250 characters for their long backs.
Nice.
I think I gave them 5. About a minute left. Well, or
Our future polls will be much easier. I don't think we have we have one open-ended question in each of those, but the other
yeah.
one's kind of ranking us.
And I don't have, I guess I should let y'all know, on the open-ended ones, I just, since they're chat on the other ones, I just left them off the polls. I figured y'all to have it on a slide or something.
Yeah, it's all good.
All right, we'll go ahead and everyone answers. So we'll go ahead and end this.
Wrapping it up.
Wrapping it
Okay,
up.
thank you all for your responses. We
Oh,
will.
it's sharing there.
Oh, nice. Okay, so we're looking at a quick glance of priorities here, reducing emissions associated with energy consumption. You all are onto something, because that is one of our, in fact, I think it is with buildings, energy use, and power generation combined, is the most greenhouse gases that were found in the region by ACOG, as part of their priority climate action plan. Mitigating the effects of extreme heat and securing funding for transportation infrastructure, close seconds. So you all are right on right there. So going to go quickly into energy productivity. These, as a reminder, these you'll see these again when we flash the poll. But think about these goals as we're talking through some of the policy highlights. The goals we set for energy productivity were to reduce emissions associated with energy consumption. So I think we may be keeping that one. Diversify local and state energy economies, reduce costs of municipal operations. So again, focusing in-house as well as to the community. And then in order to get to those goals, we have some initiatives. Reduce energy emissions, use and promote renewable energy, increase energy code compliance, enhance and promote energy efficiency programs, support renewable energy job sectors, increase energy efficiency of city facilities, and monetize carbon emissions offsets. So that's what we had to start with. And starting with some policies here, a couple that we're highlighting here is allowing PV solar panels by right in all zoning districts. While the Solarize program shown on your screen did not accomplish that, there is an ordinance in the works right now that may run ahead of the zoning code update to look at screening requirements and to enshrine this right in our municipal code. So right now the code's kind of silent on solar, and so we want to work with our partners and work with residents. We've got this in draft mode right now, and it's just about to come to go public. But this is in the works right now to work on solar by right in all zoning districts. It may not be all zoning districts, but it will be a majority of them. Yeah.
So I actually had a question because I know we have a number of HOAs on right now, and there's
Mhm.
also going to be, when this is online, maybe some
Yeah.
historic preservation neighborhoods. So what does that look like for them?
Right. So historic preservation is going to be completely judged separately on this. They set their own rules. They have their own guidelines that Historic Preservation Commission sets that roll up to the Department of Interior guidelines that they mirror. So There has been some appetite expressed by some HP commissioners to look at those again. I don't know fully what that process will look like, or if that will be. I don't expect it to be loosened entirely, but right now they're pretty restrictive in terms of being able to see them from pretty much any public right of way, and that's a challenge for a lot of folks that live in HP districts. So I think that's something that will be looked at in the future for sure. And then related to HOAs, the city can't really dictate what an HOA. Well, I shouldn't say it broad blanket like that, because there's probably something the city can dictate. But related to this, HOA's covenants, it would take state law for the city to be able to preempt those to change. So if HOAs are preventing solar, which I would love to have a conversation with those HOAs if they would like to. I also in another capacity serve on the board of the Oklahoma Solar Association. So that's something that I would welcome, any conversation about that if there's concerns about property values or installation strategies or consumer protections. That was kind of the underpinnings of the second policy that's listed here, that manifested itself through a Solarize campaign. So this was a group purchasing campaign that happened in 2022, and several community partners worked on this. This wasn't a city purchasing process. This was community driven. We helped orchestrate and pull in some technical assistance from the Rocky Mountain Institute, that's now known as RMI, that helped kind of pull this committee together, and got really deep value for residential solar and for commercial solar. And I think a few projects even included battery storage. So you can see the city added about 1.4 megawatts of new clean energy capacity through this program, through 152 contracts. So again, that was neighbors getting together and deciding, wouldn't we all save money if we all purchased at the same time from the same contractor, had some consistency? And so these are campaigns that can be driven again. You don't have to have the city involved in it, but you can absolutely. We're willing partners to provide guidance on how the first one went. But again, this is something that can happen and is happening in a lot of cities across the country. But it helped us kind of get that next policy out over the line of increasing renewable energy education opportunities and promoting completed projects. So the education opportunities, again, ties also back to that consumer protections. We saw a lot of solar permits increasing. Folks were pulling electric permits. And so it resulted in the city now has a dedicated solar permit. And so our permit office also conducts video inspections in some cases. So they've made changes in development services to be able to accommodate a lot of these. And they've dealt with some real challenges with it's not just energy code inspectors that are difficult to have. It's all the trades, and I think this is consistent across a lot of cities, that your mechanical inspectors, your electrical inspectors, it's difficult to have enough to keep up with demand. And then you have other factors that play into that that are just unforeseeable. And so they have made every effort that they can to put things to make it efficient for the people pulling permits, and to make it an easier process for developers. So I think we appreciate the work of the Development Services Department in this program and accommodating the additional growth of this industry, because again, this is creating jobs and helping residents prepare for the future by lowering their energy costs. A couple of other policies to point out of projects that are under work. So these are big ones. These take a lot of coordination and a lot of players that are involved here. But developing criteria. So EP5 says developing criteria for using renewable energy in city projects. And then we included the city's interdepartmental guidelines on coordination of facilities projects. That's just what a report or the standards document is called internally. But ultimately, the takeaway is that we want to develop criteria for when it's appropriate to use renewable energy at a city site. And so it makes the decision a little bit easier in the future. If it meets these criteria, then we are able to move forward. Move forward with securing funding and identifying how we're going to finance it. So, and then the other one that's listed is identify opportunities and determine viability of solar energy generation on public property, including but not limited to underutilized land. This could be vacant land right now, brownfields, as I mentioned before, land that's not able to be developed on until it's cleaned up, or opportunity zones. So there have been a few things that have happened with both of these policies. So we are working with RMI. We've just secured a contract with them to do similar process to what was developed in San Antonio. So you can see on the right-hand slide, that's the image that we used and a photo courtesy of Big Sun Solar, who operate in Texas. But they decided that the same vein that the neighbors in Solarize did, that wouldn't we all save money if we have economies of scale. We take a lot of our sites, our smaller sites and our huge sites. A big site that uses a lot of electricity is going to have a better return on investment for a solar investment. However, a smaller site that may be more difficult to make the math work. However, if you're not bidding those independently, if you're bidding all of them together, you can attract larger solar installers who can provide a lower price per watt across all of these. So you can get a much better price for ownership of solar through a process like that. So we're working with RMI to develop that for the city. We're gonna look at city properties that the city owns and determine which ones are the best suited and kind of form a ranking of those properties, so that when money becomes available, or financing or a grant or those types of things, we can use a very clear purchasing process. Again, the city hasn't purchased solar before. And so we're also working with them as part of that same agreement to develop a strategic procurement process that will accommodate multiple sites and be able to evaluate solar installers in that way. So this is something that's on the horizon. It's planning for the future, and it's planning for increasing city costs. But as you can see, the way that this one in particular, this police substation, it can also add other value. So again, it's not just what's on that balance sheet for how much solar costs and how much it will offset our electricity. It's been a long-standing recommendation in our hazard mitigation plan from the emergency management, the Office of Emergency Management in the police department, to cover more city vehicles. And of course, risk management would back us up on this too. If we can prevent some of those, the damage to city vehicles through covered canopies, and if we're building this canopy and investing in the steel, we might as well put solar on top and collect solar and reduce our electric bill that way. So there are co-benefits that are added on here to an approach like this, but we want to be very strategic and deliberate. And again, because our prices have been historically low, we want to make sure this makes sense for the places where we're putting it, and that it makes financial sense for the city with taxpayer dollars. So another couple of policies that we'll highlight from Energy Chapter EP 26 and EP 29, pursue dedicated funding source for ongoing energy efficiency improvements and target cost reduction in facilities with high energy demands. So the rest of this is talking about performance-based energy efficiency contracts. We weren't able to engage in one of those, but we were able to receive a grant from the Department of Commerce at the state level for lighting retrofits in 2 park centers that produced a projected savings of over $4,000 per year. So the return on investment was 1.65 years, which means we've already paid that off. We've already paid off, even if this had been city money that was invested, which it wasn't, it was grant money. So the ROI was from day one for the city, from the city's perspective. But had we invested our own money, we've demonstrated within 2 years, less than 2 years, we would have had that paid off. And then that's savings that happen in perpetuity. We're avoiding costs at that point. And then we also conduct, yeah, go right ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, we like to call these, they pay for themselves.
That's right. They pay for themselves. And so identifying ways that we can continue to reinvest those funds. I believe our energy manager, who's in the budget office of the finance department, they've started to do this, where there's a pot of funds that are produced from energy savings. And part of that was accomplished by bringing some of those electric bills in-house, so into the budget office, where they're responsible for paying for them. And then those savings, they're able to reinvest in further deeper energy savings. Another piece that we did on this was our EECBG money, our Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant money that created the Sustainability Office. That was a program that was funded through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act way back in 2009, 2010. The city received that. We had a repurpose of some money that was in a financing program And we were able to invest that in an energy audit report for, I believe, about 18 or so facilities of the city. So we were targeting cost reduction in some of the highest energy using city facilities. And it produced a full report with looked at HVAC systems and EV costs potentially for investment in those in the future. Solar potential was assessed for some of the sites. But ultimately, this table on the bottom right here shows just a capture of the LED recommendation. So if we were to upgrade lighting in these facilities to LEDs, again, we're looking at a payback of about 4 years for all of these projects together. So the electric savings per year could be about $50,000. So again, like that's stuff that would be well worth looking at investing in. And as we get to our next poll, I'm going to flash the goals and initiatives back up here on the screen. And are we doing this one in the chat, or Cassidy? Is that what you said?
No, there's one question that is going to be in
yeah. Okay, I got you. I just
because it's
saw it.
really long. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the poll, and we'll have one of these for each chapter. So ultimately, I'll go ahead and read these to you. We've got 4 of them, and we want to know what you think about the initiatives, the goals, and particularly we're honing in on the initiatives, but then how we're prioritizing things. So the initiatives in this chapter will prepare the city for the future, and this is a Likert scale. So 1 is strongly disagree, 5 is strongly agree, 3 is neutral, 4 is agree, 2 is just disagree. And so just select a vote there. Number 2 is the city is prioritizing actions appropriately in this chapter. I am supportive of the city dedicating resources to address the challenges identified in this chapter, and the initiatives in this chapter will keep the city headed in the right direction. So again, this is the highest level feedback we can get. And then into the chat, the final question that we'll ask you to put. Sarah, would you mind dropping a copy pasting that in there?
Yeah.
If it isn't already, I can't really see the chat right now. It's please type into the chat what is missing or what should be included in the update of this chapter. Oh, there's the chat. I can do that.
And then it says, feel free to respond with thumbs up if someone else enters your idea.
Yeah. So you can vote if somebody types something.
I just put in there.
You put it in there. Okay, great.
I was on it.
And I'm gonna go ahead and say energy, just so like when we're looking at the chat transcript, we know which chapter you're talking about.
Yes.
But thank you for completing these. But we will put these into a. I think what we'll do is put these into a separate survey that we can put in links to at the bottom of your YouTube video once you post it, Cassidy, and then we'll that will allow other people that watch the recording later to take the surveys as well.
It would help if I unmuted myself because I've been
Oh, were you talking now?
Yeah. It looks like, okay, I've got, oh, where did it go? Yeah, we've got a number of participants have taken it, so we'll go ahead and release I'll end it and I'll share the results.
Okay, great.
So there you go.
Excellent. Looking great so far. Thank you again for completing those. And so we'll move on. Sarah, quick time check. We're at 7:02, just so you know.
Okay.
And then we'll be moving into natural built environment. And Sarah's going to take over for a little bit.
Okay, Tio's still in charge of the slides, so I'm going to say next every now and then. So, of course, in our natural built environment chapter, this is, how we build our city and what exists already, right? So that's streets, roads, sidewalks, parks, trees, things like that. So our goals are to protect water quality, prevent damage caused by flooding, mitigate extreme heat effects, and ensure residents have access to healthy food. And our initiatives to get there are strategically use low impact development in city projects, to codify or put into rules these low impact or LID policies and best practices for private development. So we'd have like a development manual effectively that's available for free. Mitigating flood vulnerabilities, right? We talked about those earlier. Mitigate those areas of high heat exposure. We'll go into that a little bit more. And support small scale food production on vacant public land or underused park space. Next. Okay, so we're going to go over some of the policy highlights, and we've got some really great examples of what this low impact development or LID designs look like on the right-hand side of the slide. We also have some LID projects ourselves in the city. So what we're working on now is providing at this moment, we are working on NB2, which is a department process to develop a low impact development implementation strategy. So that combined with NB5, creating a low impact development guide, that is something we're working with stormwater quality on. That's actually a requirement that they have to do as part of their permit, their stormwater quality permit for the state of Oklahoma. And so we, provided some feedback on that. And so once that low impact development guide has been improved internally by our public works director, the city is going to release an RFP to hire a consultant that will actually develop those standards and complete the EPA's land use and green infrastructure scorecard as a snapshot in time for what the city's current efforts are. And it's also going to provide us a roadmap for things that we can continue to improve. So that scorecard is really going to be great because it's going to be kind of a baseline measurement of where we are right now. Okay. Now, some other policy highlights. This is really exciting. This actually started before the adaptokc was released, but it was kind of a precursor to it, right? So the city received funding from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, for this study called Greening America's Communities. Now, it is a technical assistance grant, effectively. So they were able to come in, have a consultant, and look at all of these areas, these 5 different project areas that you see listed here, to increase connectivity and walkability, but also to decrease flooding. Right. So there were lots of flooding incidents in those areas, and they pointed out these 5 different methods are ways that we can reduce, water flow when it storms, when it rains. And this matters, and keep this map in mind. We'll show you a little bit later. This is actually showing the direction of where all of this water flows, right? So you see these little dotted lines, that's kind of like sub basins, so to speak. And this is the direction the water flows, right? So it's all kind of hitting this choke point of James Guy Creek that you could see the mouse on right now, and then also kind of hits Crown Heights Park. So all of this water from all these different places, right? And all of this fairly, well-developed urban core part of the city, it all kind of goes into this one area here. And you don't have to live in the area to kind of know its impacts. If you live nearby, you have probably seen it flood. Now, low impact development, this is a photo, let me back up. This is a photo from some really severe flooding that happened in 2013. If I'm not mistaken, that may have been May of 2013, end of May. There was a lot of severe weather in May of 2013. So this is, somebody's in the front of somebody's house, and having low impact developments, rain gardens, as we like to affectionately call them in some places, that's not going to solve a flooding event for something like this. However, it is going to help us for our more average or more typical rain events that where we don't get inches of rain deluged. But basically, this study looked at all of these different areas, and it actually provided some project models that helped inform the actual designs of what's going on at 29th and Walker in the Paseo district, right? So those blue circles, if you can see those are different places where we would put those rain gardens. They're called turrets. It helps get the water into below ground, basically, and has some storage right there. We're also working, to coming up with what that maintenance process would look like, right? Because maintaining a rain garden is totally different than someone cleaning out a storm drain, right? They're both maintenance, but they're two different things, and the staff don't have the maintenance staff. They've never maintained a rain garden before, so we're looking for some creative solutions for that right there. Let's see.
Yeah, and I will point out also
Please.
that sedimentation is something that people often forget about as a stormwater pollutant, but that contributes to a nerdy term called turbidity, right? The amount of suspended solids that are in the water, that has challenges for oxygen levels and but also for just the flow. It can disrupt flow and cause flooding in certain areas. So ways that rain gardens and bioswales or any of these combinations of things, the idea would be not to prevent giant May 2013 types of floods, but ultimately that if we could have a series of these, and this is the first step in the right direction of installing this, understanding how this could work with the city, what partners we involve, how maintenance, as Sarah mentioned, how maintenance works of not just the systems themselves, but the plants that live in those, to keep those healthy and thriving, because those plants play an important role too. They're filtering other pollutants. And so, this is a learning process, but the idea would be that all of these areas that we see, there's a lot of neighborhoods, a lot of intersections there. If we can have a series of these, any amount of stormwater that we're able to slow down helps prevent some of those flooding hazards as well.
And Tia, will you go back to that other map?
I will.
So, and there are neighborhoods, I'm sure, as y'all are aware.
Oh yeah.
Highlight and hype them up for their work.
Please hype them.
So number 3, where Guy James is, they the owner of Native Plant lives over there, and in Guy James, the creek, they have put in a ton of new native plants through a grant they got to help with the erosion and impact.
Love it.
And then Crown Heights has put in a pollinator garden on their creek bed as well to help offset some of that.
Nice. Yeah, no, I'm going to go ahead and shout it out because he's got great informative educational videos. But Brian Peaver with Native Plants, like he's got awesome videos that talk about specific native plants, how they benefit your gardens, how they benefit your landscape. So there's also Native Plant Network, important to shout those folks out too. I've heard through sources that this native plant network is able to help with sourcing. So sometimes nurseries may not have enough of certain types of plants, local plants, and so this is a way that like folks are really networking and able to get more of these types of plants in place. And that's awesome to hear that the neighborhood's taking on some of the erosion. We have some pretty dramatic photos. I'm sure the neighborhood does too of that erosion that's happening. It was a big focus of that Greening America's Communities report. And while we're shouting people out, I also want to shout out Ryan Baker, who was the former sustainability office employee. He worked a lot on the Greening America's Communities report and on that project. It did have a lot of community engagement. We had community engagement meetings, so there was a public process. It's kind of what set up for including these things in these streetscapes. So again, yeah, no, it's a very slow process. We're doing it brick by brick, but here's where we are now, and we do have some examples in parks and other places. So Sarah, I'll hand it back over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Tio. That was a great kind of in-depth deep dive. And Cassidy, thanks for shouting out what those other neighbors are doing. That's great to know because sometimes we don't always find out about these things. So if there's other cool things happening, put them in the chat. These projects are really exciting because, they provide a pilot or a model, how we can develop these and scale these over, across the city, citywide. So there's a couple of projects that we have on this slide. The 2 pictures on the right-hand side, that's Memorial Park, and it's describing what green infrastructure is and what bioswales are. So these are different LID measures that help reduce the flooding because we have what they're called permeable pavers. It's just basically, it allows, instead of being impermeable concrete or asphalt, it allows the water to actually soak through the bricks. It does, again, take maintenance. You've got to clean those clean those channels and things. But this is much lower maintenance, especially as we're using native plants. As you can see in the bottom photo, that's at Kitchen Lake. But this principle applies kind of across the board, right? Native plants are important and useful in low impact development because they're drought tolerant, so we don't have to put a lot of irrigation there. Native plants tend to have really deep root systems, and so they get really deep in the soil, and that means that they can help stabilize the soil, prevent erosion, and also it means it's also improvement for their drought. So on the bottom photo there at Kitchen Lake, I believe that is some lavender and then some other types of grass as well. And I can get some specifics if you'd like. Course credit intern, we're really grateful to have our course credit interns like Mariella, who's with us this evening. Emily Hamilton was a course credit intern that we had a couple of years back. And so she came to us. She's from Oklahoma City. She had this interest and in both GIS, but also in art. So we'll show you about that. So think about what that map looked like from Greening America's Communities. And that's just like a teeny tiny bottom portion of this darker blue portion on the map, right? And so you can see the larger Deep Fork watershed and how big it is and how it extends to these other counties, right? So it's not just about us and our water quality, it's also about our neighbors and friends who live nearby. Perfect. So you can see a little bit deeper. She dug deep into different areas that would be good spots to be able to put up signage so that people understand where they are in that watershed, so they have kind of a point of reference effectively, and then also describe more about some of the impaired water bodies, which just basically means we have a lot of lakes and rivers and streams that are polluted with, as Tio mentioned, silt. It makes them very turbid or very muddy, right? And so that can help improve education with all of these different spots that she was able to find. And that was actually based on foot traffic and parking flows to our parks. So these are some of the sign designs that she came up with. Again, we have this developed. It just needs the funding effectively, and showing different types of signs that can feature different things, right? So one is on low impact development, one is on the watershed itself, and kind of explaining, where we are in the watershed and why that matters.
Right, and it just one way that we can get into the community and take things to where people are and raise awareness and educate folks about the importance of some of those low impact development features. They look cool, but they're actually doing some work, and so like that's what hopefully we can communicate through some signage like this or artistic designs.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing, right? Because a lot of climate impacts you don't see, and sometimes the climate solutions you can't really see, right? Because a lot of this work, like you said, is going on under literally underground and in the background. So these are a couple of different locations that she cited at Memorial Park. Remember that parking lot there also has those LID features that was actually paid for with an AARP grant from 2021. So kind of these large signs, are not really an obelisk, but like a large feature basically to describe what these things are. Both in
And I think
Memorial.
they're ultimately placeholders too, because we had grand visions, depending on the budget and the involvement of public art. These would be great places for watershed focused public art. Oklahoma City loves public art, and that was actually I didn't intend to segue that, but like there's actually another piece of her project.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I mentioned that she had this interest in art. And so she's looked at all of these, she's done research to look at all of these different cities that have these really incredible storm drain projects. You may have seen near storm drains in Oklahoma City little stickers or maybe a little placard that says, no dumping, drains to river, that sort of thing. But when you look at that over and over again, it just becomes background. And at some point, you don't even see it, right? So the goal here, especially with all of this like eye-popping, eye-catching artwork that she has found across the country, and it's a great way to be able to get the community involved, children involved, educators involved. Yes, absolutely. Norman does this, and there are some really great ones in downtown Norman, among other places. So, right, it's getting attention that, storm drains are not just, yeah, sure, they're part of the background. There are infrastructure, but they do a lot of work. And then the other thing is that we don't filter that water at all, right? It just goes directly into the stream that ends up in the lake. That is where folks take their raw water before it's treated for drinking water. Um, so I'm cautiously optimistic money will fall from the sky and we could do the storm drain project. This is one of my favorite ones, of course, is the Urban Heat Island Monitoring Project. We have this in policy, right? Like one of our natural built policies was specifically to determine these methods to measure, monitor, and report local urban heat island conditions. The QR code on the bottom left will take you to our campaign page where you can learn more about the campaign and what we found, and a link to the interactive map. And the photo, or the screenshot, excuse me, on the right is just another that shows these are all the routes. We had volunteers actually driving around the city to capture temperatures and humidities. And we found this almost 15-degree difference, which is, almost twice what EPA's decades worth of research has shown. So we know that it's getting hotter, and, cities are contributing to that with the way that we build. We like to shout out our steering committee and our partners because this was a really comprehensive effort. We covered 350 square miles. It was a lot of coordination, a lot of planning, and we, needed expertise from other folks. And they provided us a lot of great information, a lot of in-kind support, as well as financial resources as well. So, and on the day of our campaign, both the Metro Libraries and Parks Department served as kind of hubs where the community would meet and get their instructions, their equipment, their snacks before they headed out on the road. So we also like to show our funding partners, of course, because they helped us expand the scope of our project by quite a bit. The initial funding we received from NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, was only about $19,500. That went to the consultant to help us with the maps that we're talking about. But because we are interested in these other things, they have connections to other areas, and we've got great partners who care about air quality and want to see that mapped. They care about the interventions and what solutions that we can have. They care about heat perception, and we're able to do this survey as well. So it's incredible for us that we were able to turn this $19,500 grant into more than $63,000 to really expand our project beyond what that typical one is. So like I said, we studied 350 miles. A typical grant covers only about 100 square miles. And remember, we're like 6 times that. So that yellow area you see on the left, that's our project area. That's all the Oklahoma City boundaries that came from the tree canopy assessment that Tio mentioned earlier in the presentation. Now on the right, it's a map. It's got a lot of points. It is real busy. But really what this is our points of interest. Our consultant encouraged us to, find places that where we would likely find vulnerable people, right? And those are schools and hospitals and clinics and even public libraries, but also places like bus stops that didn't have a covered shelter. We worked with Embark to get some data and find, where some unsheltered bus stops were. Also, we marked parking lots, RV parks and mobile homes. Those structures are way less designed to protect you from the heat, and that makes folks vulnerable. So this is an example, just a quadrant, just a portion of the routes that we ran. We had 33 routes in total over the city. And as you can see, they're kind of weird and different shapes, but the goal is to get them close enough together that we have a really wide spread of this data collection. We love this photo. This really is a great example of what it looked like on campaign day, but this wasn't actually from our campaign, but it's a great photo, so we like to use it anyway. What this person is touching in the front passenger side is the heat and temperature and GPS sensors that Kappa Strategies, the consultant, developed specifically for this scientific project. And then on the back passenger window, we like to call that the sideways Pac-Man for those of us who remember Pac-Man. And this is a consumer grade, a lower cost air quality monitor. We program them to do mobile monitoring, and 2/3 of our routes, so 20 of our routes, had those air quality monitors on them. So they put the equipment on, they drove around 3 times a day, and I can't remember the next slide. This is we're zooming straight in. You've seen that the big version. We're zooming straight in into a neighborhood, right? So what you can see to the left or to the west of I-35, this is a low-income neighborhood. This is predominantly Hispanic. You can see the colors, the kind of light yellow and white. Those are the cooler areas, right? And so it was good to see that there's canopy in some in this neighborhood, but there's some other areas where the canopy's not great. And if you go just a mile down the road on Southeast 15th, you hit this industrial area that has pretty much no trees. And sadly, at the corner of Southeast 15th and Eastern is a school complex. So we've got a K through 12 school complex there. So you can see some of these other features that are in this neighborhood. I was actually kind of surprised how cool it turned out. But when you look at what the tree canopy looks like in, late summer, they've got tons of trees there. There's empty lots. Sure, there's probably some tree damage, but it makes a difference, right? Now, when you think about that industrial area, there's pretty much no tree cover for that area. Even though this photo was taken, Google Street View in February of 24, that one tiny tree, even in the summer, fully leafed out, is not going to do much, if anything, for that industrial area to cool off that urban heat island, right? Because very little trees and vegetation. Bermuda grass does very little to absorb heat. And you've got a very homogeneous kind of zone area there where you've got this industrial development.
Yeah, those trucks are almost casting more shade than the trees do in that area. So that's not a good ratio. That might be an indicator we keep an eye on. Truck shade versus vegetative shade.
Right. Truck shade. The Heat Vulnerability Index is another project that we contributed some information to with these researchers from these 3 colleges at University of Oklahoma. And they developed a Heat Vulnerability Index. This is basically the means and methodologies are standardized. But if you think about what is a vulnerability, right? Your heat vulnerability is this. It's an equation. Your vulnerability equals your sensitivity. Do you have any health conditions? Are you under 18 or over 65? That makes you more vulnerable. Plus your capacity to adapt. Do you have the funds to add more insulation to your attic? Or are you a renter and you can't change anything about the place where you live? And then your exposure itself. Are there a lot of trees in your neighborhood? Or do you have, a long walk on, on a sidewalk that's not covered at all to an uncovered bus stop? So that information is in data.okc.gov, and we use the Heat Vulnerability Index not just to guide us as we were looking at those routes, but also for our summer heat survey. We surveyed about 2,000 people. Huge shout out to OK Zoo for distributing that survey among zoo membership folks. It really boosted the survey. But we took folks' zip codes and we looked at those who had a low vulnerability, that's in the darker blue, that's a bar on top, and the folks who had a high vulnerability based on their zip code, it's in green on the bottom. So in all of these places, you can see in my home, both day and night, at work, whether indoors or outdoors, and in transit or while commuting, high vulnerability folks feel this more than folks who don't have a low vulnerability, right? So those who can't adapt to this, they feel the negative effects worse. They are experiencing it more so than those who have the ability to adapt to that. This is a great, I just really like this chart because it's kind of solving all of these different Implementation measures are basically solving one problem or solving multiple problems with a single solution, right? Think about preserving trees. You have better air quality, it improves your mood, it reduces stormwater runoff and erosion, things like that. And we can do that right now, and it has a lot of co-benefits. Whereas if we were to plant new trees, we're going to have to wait 10, 20, 30 years to get those full benefits. Now, when we think about energy efficiency updates, kind of in the top third of that, we're still going to get co-benefits from energy efficiency, but it takes a bit longer to actually implement. So I'm a visual person. We like to use this chart to help kind of explain what some of these potential solutions are. So again, we've got a QR code that goes to our story map and resource hub. We're really excited about this one. Esri actually helped us build this based on a template they created, and it basically analyzes all of these different components that helps us figure out in a very short time frame, which census tracts and which wards will tree planting most improve people's health in OKC. So you can click on there, explore that, look and see what the vulnerability looks like, in your area, and check out that story map too. It's a pretty cool story of how we got to where we are today.
And we plan to build on it too, so there will be more added to it
Yes.
as time goes on.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And hopefully we can get Mariella has an expertise in GIS, so we're hoping to use some of her skills to improve that resource hub and continue to add things on there for folks. So our extreme heat tabletop exercise, if you're not familiar with a tabletop exercise, it's generally in the field of kind of first responders, emergency managers, that sort of emergency response. But in this case, it's basically like a workshop to stress test the system, right? So we came up with a scenario thanks to the help of National Weather Service, Norman, Rick Smith, and Mark Fox. Love our local weather forecasters. They helped come up with a scenario that was likely to happen in Oklahoma City, but wasn't, exact verbatim of something that has happened. And then we basically created this scenario and then broke into groups, and then people have to figure out what are our solutions. Late season heat wave at the state fair in Oklahoma City, and we've got dozens of people, dropping out. How do you deal with that situation? What do you need to plan and prepare in advance to make sure we can reduce people's, heat exposure from the parking lot just to the entrance, those sorts of things. And this is really exciting for us because it helped open a door or reopen a door with our Office of Emergency Management. We worked closely with them before. My predecessor, Ryan, actually had worked with them through parts of the pandemic as well as in emergency response, emergency management capacity. And so, but people retire, contacts change, right? And so now we've got this great opportunity. We're working with our colleagues in the Office of Emergency Management, and they do these things on a regular basis, and we're now working to do that this fall. So it will be more of a city-focused event, so it's not necessarily open to the public, but we will be building on all of these things. What can we improve, and how do we build for next year to reduce our risk and exposure? Gosh, we've got a lot of things in this chapter, and it's exciting. So there is, again,
Do you want me to explain this one?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, well,
this is your presentation, so
well, no, it shows
will
me
be
on
your
the slide.
presentation.
It shows me on the slide, so I think I should help promote the OKC Beautiful Sustainable Urban Landscapes Conference. So we'll be featured there. So the folks you see there from planning, Marilyn Allen, Benary, and Jonathan are going to be on having a session there. So this isn't the only place you can find this information about the zoning code update or the development codes update. This has been a multi-year project that most recently the piece that went forward was the accessory dwelling units ordinance. And so the next pieces are coming for the urban medium, so the section of the city, and tying back to comprehensive plan terminology. So during this landscapes conference, the Sustainable Urban Landscape Conference, we'll have a session there to talk about how things are looking forward towards what our landscape requirements and how they might change, knowing what we know about the urban heat island and how our landscape code right now may not be doing enough. And so we want to use this opportunity to meet with a lot of subject matter experts who may be at this conference But this type of information will be publicly available. And I know Neighborhood Alliance has hosted some development codes updates projects, or excuse me, workshops on here and feedback sessions. So
I've never hosted an accessory dwelling workshop in my life.
it never happened ever.
Ever.
Is that sarcasm or not?
No, we had 3.
Okay.
I was
Like,
supposed
you're
to.
really selling it, because I wasn't sure. No, but looking at emphasis on species more drought tolerant rather than tree plant size, looking at increasing incentives for keeping existing trees, cluster developments, greening urban areas with trees, new configuration for parking lot landscaping. These types of elements will be looked at in the new code. So there's still public process still happening, a lot of time for feedback, and but ultimately these aspects of the zoning code will help us implement some of these policies on the side that are very much in progress, and particularly in B17, looking at the policy said eliminate, but it may be something south of that where it's right sized and we're incentivizing the parking that's only needed there versus giant swaths of parking that are contributing negatively to our community.
I'm taking this one back. I'm
Yeah,
taking
you can have these back. I know you would.
So again, some of our other policy highlights here are using highly reflective or new replacement roofing on city facilities. We don't have the temperatures on this thermal image that you can see on the right-hand side of the page, but you can see on the building there, right? The building has a white roof. You could see some of the drains. The drains have dirtied it up a little bit and created some darker spots. And you can actually see on that thermal image below, that's kind of that orangish look, right? So orange is hotter and this purple is cooler. So you can actually see on that roof there um, the work that a white roof is really doing. And then this hasn't begun yet, NB21, but MAPS 4 has allocated 500 or more than $500,000 specifically to community gardens. So we're working, that will turn into a pilot leasing, well, may not turn into specifically that, but one of our policies was pilot leasing program, right? So we've got funding, we have a policy, so hopefully we'll be able to work together with the MAPS folks on implementing that. Okay, and next, because this is one of my favorite things related to urban heat island, this is actually, so thermal image on your right, regular image on your left. That's actually a screenshot. We have turned it north is actually at the bottom of the image. So sorry for the kind of upside down nature of this, but this really shows how different, the difference between a cool roof, which is the herpetarium, that's that building with the 98.1 degree roof right there. You can see how cool that is, and even how much cooler just like not being in direct sunlight makes it, right? Compared to grandma's porch, which is this other one, 145.4 degrees, and that's just a regular, it's actually kind of an open picnic area, but it's a regularly shingled roof, right? And then we've got these fun little features, these kind of dark purple squares you see in the middle there. That is 83.3 degrees. And then this little green building is 121. So you can, like, this is the effect of a cool roof, right? And it's not just,
Right. And
go ahead.
sorry, you were probably about to say it.
It helps lower the temperature inside the building for the occupants, right? So it's lowering your energy bills in a very dramatic and quick fashion.
Right. I was going to say it doesn't always have to be just a stark white roof. So the materials make a difference here too. So it's
Yes.
a metal roof on the herpetarium that also it's not a good conductor of heat. So right, compared to the shingled roof. So that brings us to our next poll. We are running tight on time, so we might limit this one to a little bit less time. I was going to say maybe not that quick, but
Yeah, let me make it the fastest poll.
okay, so we may just take a minute or so on this one to respond to the numbers. Again, the chat is always open. As you hear these things and hear the chapter end like this, you can add to the chat what is missing or should be included in the update of this chapter. Again, you'll have a lot of other opportunities for input too, so don't feel like the time constraint is going to limit your opportunity for input. Yeah, Sarah got a lot of slides that she had to cover, but as you can tell, we're really excited about a lot of things in that chapter, and that chapter does affect a lot of planning, and that's the department we're in. So, the way the city develops and how we deal with nature and keeping our natural systems so that we can have the benefits from those.
And the good news is the last couple of chapters are a bit shorter than
They
air
are.
quality and energy
Yeah,
productivity.
air quality and waste reduction coming up, and we'll be able to cover those. And then at the end, we do have a QR code, so please stick around. We do have a QR code to a survey where you can sign up to stay involved in the update. So you can select any chapter. If you're just interested in one chapter or two chapters, you can select those, or you can be interested in all of it, and you'll get all of the communications from the Sustainability Office about the plan update. And that link will be also shareable. We'll put that at the bottom of the recording too, so folks can access that.
Whoa, well, if you want me to close this one, I can. Oh,
Yeah. Anybody else? Final call?
last call. No. All right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5s. Okay.
There you go.
Great. Moving on. Thank you again for your feedback. I didn't even bring up the initiatives. Sorry, everyone.
I forgot
Hopefully
about
you
that
have
one too.
really good memories of those. But again, you'll have time to provide input there. So air quality in this chapter, as indicated by our greenhouse gas emissions, it's largely those buildings and electricity generation, but also transportation. We built our city for automobiles, which means we drive a lot, and we have a giant city. And people commute. So the commutes typically are single occupancy vehicles. 85+% of folks are driving one car to work and back. And so you can combine all of those tailpipe emissions, and that creates ground level ozone or smog that we'll get to in just a second. So that's kind of the focus of our goals and our initiatives, reducing those transportation emissions. And that's by we're not going to drive a lot less because of the size and the nature of our city, but we can take some of those commutes and make them low and no emissions. And so that's something that we're focused on. But ACOG, the Association of Central Oklahoma Governments, a perennial partner for Oklahoma City, and we're a member of their regional network. They did a cost of non-attainment study for the Oklahoma City area. And what that means is non-attainment is a term the EPA uses for the threshold set for ozone precursors. So these are tailpipe emissions that include volatile organic compounds, carbon monoxide, the oxides of nitrogen, and those are the things that in the presence of sunlight on hot windless days create ozone. And then if you add particulate matter, 2.5 to that, you've got smog. And so those are very harmful for respiratory illnesses, cardiovascular effects, can damage vegetation, but also, really this is about people. And then beyond that, it's about costs. So if we were to go non-attainment, it would cost the region somewhere between $9.6 to $15.2 billion. So the city contributed to this report, as did several other partners. But this was important to find out. This is important to know because of how reliant we are on federal transportation dollars to repair our roads and maintain a lot of that infrastructure. So it's really important to keep in the context that it doesn't just mean that we won't have any money to spend on roads. It will just take longer to spend it on the things that we need because there'll be more reviews and can affect power plants too, and power generation sources and the cost of electricity if more emissions controls have to go into place. So just a quick graphic. It's very rudimentary, but it does talk about something that's memorable. So ozone in the low zone is not where we want it. That's where you breathe it. That's where it's harmful. You can sign up for ozone alert days from ACOG or from DEQ. I believe ACOG has the text alerts that they can send on days that are going to be ozone alert days, where you may want to take some considerations. Again, particulate matter 2.5, this is another pollutant that comes from tailpipe emissions. Oh, we do have a slide coming up for the ozone alerts where you can sign up for those texts. But PM 2.5, this is very, very small compared to beach sand or human hair. But ultimately, this can cause irritation in the short term, the eyes and the throat and nose if you spend a lot of time outside. And if you're particularly predisposed to things like this through cardiovascular illnesses, they can have long-term effects. In fact, 11% of all Oklahomans have asthma, and so this is no coincidence that they're exposed more to things like PM 2.5 through various means. So another very serious concern, and an interest in reducing those emissions. So ACOG's ozone alert days, you can see a flash of the years of how many we've had. This may be a good indicator going forward for us of how many days to monitor that we do go to ozone with that additional heat and the pollution that's there. And then also DEQ does have real-time data for today and day ahead forecasts. So they have a very useful website for health advisories, particularly if you fall into one of those categories of being highly vulnerable. You've heard that I've mentioned several times our greenhouse gas study. So this was done actually again through ACOG. They put together a priority climate action plan as part of a planning grant received in the past few years. But ultimately, we're talking about buildings, we're talking about energy generation and on-road transportation as being the biggest sources. So stationary sources, energy use in residential buildings, which is 19%, and energy use in commercial buildings, 22%. But combining that with manufacturing, energy industries, energy generation, all of those combined are about 62%. So reducing our energy emissions and reducing our transportation emissions will continue to be very important. Transportation was the next in line at 22%. And then industrial processes and waste disposal. And just because it's on here, AFOLU stands for agricultural, forestry, and other land use greenhouse gas emissions from captured or released from land management. So it's just a weird category, and I'm sure I would have that question if I didn't know what that acronym meant. So diving into a couple of policies really quickly. AQ6, conduct analysis of city fleet and establish a target. We have Department of Energy funds to do this and have initiated it, and then we paused it because there was a lot of uncertainty around our funding source or around federal funding at the time we released that. And one of the potential proposers asked a question of if we would be willing to pause it for a little while until some certainty came back around. But we do feel pretty confident that we might be able to move forward soon. This is a program that is established in by federal law, and so it's funded by Congress, and hopefully we'll be able to complete that project to study our fleet and then set a strategic plan, not just for our fleet but our buildings as well, where charging makes the most sense, and then develop a strategic plan for how to get there. One way we're doing that is through a policy because it saves money. So the city manager signed to help us accomplish AQ9 to require what we said EV ready construction. We're actually EV capable. EV ready requires running the actual wires and the circuit to where the charger would be installed. But sometimes you don't always know how many or exactly which one, which voltage you're going to need for that. So it's best to run just the conduit to the places, but to the parking spaces. But if you do that in advance, you can see from the graph down here, you can save a tremendous amount of money by doing it in new construction versus retrofits. Retrenching underneath those parking lots and running conduit later can cost a substantial amount more versus planning for it ahead and having it in place. So we do have a percentage target for or percentage requirement for new parking lots that the city builds. So here are our goals and initiatives, and we can go ahead and launch the next poll.
Yeah, absolutely. Hold on just a
For
second.
air quality. And again, this one is just about transportation emissions, and increasing funding for transportation infrastructure, the big focuses of our air quality chapter. And we know there was a lot of overlap with energy and air quality, but we wanted air quality to stand alone so that there was a focus on transportation. So thanks again for sticking with us through a grueling number of slides, but hopefully some really interesting information, and hopefully you've learned something about your city tonight. And finally, we have the waste reduction chapter coming next.
Give a couple more seconds for this to get filled out.
We'll hang on. I think we'll be right on time with the remaining slides here.
Perfect. All right, last call.
Okay, final call for your air quality poll.
Nerd alert. I saw the chart from the previous that said it would cost $3,550 to retrofit. That was in 2016. So I went
Yeah,
to the
those dollars have changed.
those dollars have changed, and that's now about $4,760. I went to
Wow.
the inflation calculator. I can't help myself.
Don't do that. It hurts.
I know.
I know it hurts.
But even more important to do it in new construction versus waiting until later on. Okay, awesome. Thank you for those responses. Waste reduction. So again, this image is we're crediting just because it's a great image and it has motion in it, but it's also got people in it. So we're crediting the Michigan Department of Environment for capturing this one. But this scene exists in Oklahoma City. This happens at the materials recovery facilities that Waste Management has here in town. And and they offer tours too. So if you're ever interested in seeing where all of your stuff goes and how much effort goes into keeping those waste streams clean, that's something that Waste Management does offer from time to time for community groups or whomever. So something to remember that there's no away, right? So things go somewhere, and it's either buried or it's recycled in some cases. Or in some cases, if it's food waste and you have a community partner that will accept it, you have potentially a way to compost it. So looking at the goals and initiatives in this chapter, we focus on recycling or reusing recoverable material, increasing demand for products made with recycled content, and then preventing exposure to hazardous waste. And that last one is really driving things towards our household hazardous waste facility. So there's been a lot accomplished there. And I'm not certain that we got any stats in this presentation, but be assured those stats will be in the full progress report that's going to be published later on in the next month or so. So looking at WR2, conducting a study of paper-intensive municipal processes. We weren't able to secure funding to conduct a comprehensive study, which we still want to do. However, there has been a big push towards, even before the pandemic happened, towards less paper-intensive processes, towards using fewer and fewer things. The planning department administers the packets and the meetings for Planning Commission, for Board of Adjustment, for Arts Commission, for Historic Preservation Commission. All of these things, and they can generate a tremendous amount of paper if you think about the number of meetings that are had. But big shout out to Randy Marks, running the Arts Commission since 2021 has converted to paperless and has saved over 25,000 sheets of paper. That's a huge amount. That's avoided about 450 pages on average per meeting. So that's about 25,000 pages since 2021. Historic Preservation Commission converted to entirely electronic packets, avoiding 67,000 plus sheets of paper in 2024 alone. That's just 1 year. So that's nearly 14 cases of paper that have 5,000 sheets per box in 1 year. That's a tremendous amount of paper that was used just to conduct the business of the meetings. And again, also Downtown Design Review Commission has also converted. Just in 2024, we're able to estimate about 12,000 sheets of paper able to be avoided there. So, so there are a number of meetings and other strategies. There's a number of other ways that the city has reduced paper use that we just haven't been able to track yet. Building permits, a lot of the permit submittals, construction permits, a lot of those are able to be submitted electronically now. There used to be giant rolls of paper that would come into the city offices. So that was some big shifts. And I do want to give a shout out. This is a photo of the historic Oklahoma Historical Society, a living legend here in Oklahoma, Mr. Fenton Rood, who worked for the Department of Environmental Quality for years untold. I can't even remember how many years he worked for DEQ, but there's some really interesting pages here in the newspapers that he's working on there that kind of show how long he's been doing this. But again, important to point to those who came before us to kind of pave this way. So looking at WR7, developing and promoting a toolkit for community event organizers to pursue zero landfill events. This is particular terminology because zero waste is really hard to do. And it takes a lot of infrastructure that's beyond your control to be able to pull it off. However, we owe a huge amount of gratitude and kudos to OKC Beautiful. The Sustainability Office played a minor role in developing of this. We helped kind of put a survey together for event planners, commercial districts, just to gather some data. And Natalie Evans and folks took this and created a zero waste guide in 2023. So this exists now. This is access to resources, lots of links inside this thing. And I think we can get that in the chat, probably the link to that. If not, we can follow up. I think we have it on. I'm fairly certain we have it on our website as well. But the Arts Council has been committed to this for some years of their Go Green initiative to try to divert waste from the landfill that's generated at the Arts Festival of Oklahoma City. So our office routinely participates in community events to raise awareness of strategies and resources to reduce wasted food. Fertile Ground was their partner this last year at the Arts Council, and I have from the Arts Council that they were able to compost 10,000 pounds of waste and recycle 6,500 pounds of waste. So there's a increasing number of facilities that are able to accept food waste and accept green waste, and so that's something we'd like to see more of, and a lot more of being able to keep that stuff out of the landfills, because ultimately a huge chunk of that portion of waste management that goes to our greenhouse gases is organic material. So that yard waste and food waste, that stuff that there's, I wish I'd put the chart in here of the hierarchy of places that food can go before it should go to a landfill. But if it can't go to people or it can't go to animals and you can't compost it, there's a process that we should go through. So
but T.O., you can compost in Oklahoma City at one of the many drop-off compost locations.
That's right. And
I couldn't help but mention that one.
More information about that will be in the full progress report, because it was a partnership of ACOG and Fertile Ground, and I think a few other partners came together on that. But there are some drop-off locations where folks can take food waste if you can't compost at your backyard or other places. So again, hoping to continue to see that trend continue. And then the final slide before we hit the polls for waste reduction, WR11, adopt more stringent building codes to reduce debris and total losses during extreme weather and tornado events. While that wasn't something we were able to accomplish in this time frame, we were kind of pointing towards the city of Moore, where they had some changes back in what was that, after
14. It was after the 2013
tornado,
so and it was codified in 2014.
Yeah, it was studied later on that effectively, since they put those into place, it didn't hurt their market. And so a couple of things hurt their building market. So, sometimes this can be worth the additional investment, especially when we're talking about new homes you're putting that in a mortgage over 30 years, the resident is going to want to have a stronger home that lasts longer. In the case of not a total loss if a tornado were to come through. So just again shortening that that path of destruction whenever straight line winds or tornadoes do happen to come through. So our office was also honored to be involved in joining more than 100 individuals across 60 organizations and participating in the development of a cross-sector multi-agency proposal called Forging New Frontiers in Extreme Weather Resilience and Innovation Engine, or Weather Forge. The initiative submitted to the National Science Foundation's Regional Innovation Engines Program solicitation for funding consideration would position Oklahoma as a leader in driving the transition of the region's built environment to extreme weather resilience. So this is around developing standards, developing products, developing things that can go to market that would help our buildings be stronger here. A lot of those folks are featured down here at the bottom. Too many to name as far as the people that put in, but it was a massive effort. So big shout out to those folks for being able to get that together. I think spearheaded by at OU was involved, I know, in several different capacities. So a big project, and hopefully gets funding for the state of Oklahoma. So one other thing is that the other half of that Department of Energy funding that we do have, and we're hoping to move forward soon, is for permit-ready resilient home plans. So other cities have done this before, where they put together construction-ready plans that just need a permit, and you can go and build a thing. It helps reduce a barrier to having a really well-designed home. But being that this funding was from the Department of Energy, we want to really focus on designing construction for energy efficiency and future proofing, and so that they would include single family home designs, duplexes, and ADUs, and ideally the funds would go far enough to have a suite of those, but these would meet the new HUD energy code standards. They could be designed as EV ready and solar ready. We would hire a third-party energy modeler to compare the designs to minimum code standards to show how much of a difference that these types of design considerations can make. And then also we want to include some of these build stronger considerations, some of like the stronger building codes, the more resilient building codes, to be part of those designs as well. So that will be an RFQ or an RFP, some request for proposals that we'll see, or request for qualifications to hire architects to design these, licensed architects in Oklahoma to be able to design those, better regulate thermal exchange between outdoor and indoor areas during power outages, and higher wind speeds. If you have a better envelope on your home, you can stay in it for longer when the power's out. And now we're at the last poll. So 1 minute, if you'll please bear with us and respond to this. We will get to the...
Absolutely. It is Pokemon Go to the polls time.
Nice.
And
Sarah, can you grab the link to the
I got
survey and go ahead and drop it in the chat just so it's there, so we don't have to wait on the QR code, because we do want folks to be able to take it. And genuinely thank you everyone for sticking around for the entirety of this show and for your participation.
And if residents have additional feedback and would like to send you an email, where can they send it?
Totally can. Sarah will drop it in the chat, and it's actually a really easy one. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide just so it's on the screen when I say it. The word sustainability at okc.gov. So we didn't pick the easiest word to spell, but it's kind of, it's two pieces of it. And should be getting close on the poll.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a couple more seconds.
Okay.
Go ahead and
I believe we have in the chat also the work group interest. All right, thank you so much for those responses. So you can see it in the chat. You can see it right here through a QR code. This will take you to a survey where we can just get a little bit of information about you, so we can follow up with you. We'll be creating distribution lists Oh no.
Yeah, somebody did.
Oh wait, the S fell off.
That's okay. That's, let me grab that and I'll put that back in the chat. Thanks for pointing that out,
Thanks,
Mary.
Mary. So yeah, we would love to have you along for this ride as we continue to develop the update for Adapt OKC and the city's future sustainability efforts. But that's our show. Cassidy, you can have it back.
Oh, well, I don't know if I'm ever gonna be able to top that.
Yeah, it was a wonderful presentation,
That
guys.
was so good. Thank y'all everyone so much for coming and sticking with us tonight. We really enjoyed having everyone provide their input. This is going to make Tio and Sarah's job easier as they're moving forward with this. And we really appreciated seeing so many new faces this evening as we talk about this discussion. You have my email. It was sent to you. I believe most of you have Maya's too, as we sent you those links. So likewise, with Tio and Sarah in the Office of Sustainability, if y'all have any questions, feel free to reach out and we'd love to hear from y'all. And we hope to see everyone again soon.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thanks.
Bye.